Good morning, gentlemen. I hope you're all well and well rested. This is Teacher Martin here, and this video is basically to introduce you to the new topic that you're going to be learning this week, which is coordinates and grids. Some of you may be familiar with either of those keywords, but if not, don't worry, because you're going to learn about it today. Okay, so our key question is, what are coordinates and how can we find them? Okay, so we're going to shoot straight forward to the first slide. Okay, so the question now I want you to think about for a second. So how do we find the location of something? So think about how we find location. Okay, so all of you are familiar with a map. I hope so anyway. Okay, now maps, as you probably know, help us to find our destination and not only find where we are, but to plan where we want to go. So we can plan a trip from one point to another. So those points we usually refer to as point A, which is where we start, and point B, which is where we're going to finish. Okay. So what I want you to think about is when you look closely at a map, maybe some of you have noticed this, but it's very, very important information that you'll find actually put onto the top of the image on a map. Okay, so a lot of maps, I put there all maps, not all maps, but most maps are covered in lines. Okay, now these lines run vertically. Okay, so vertically from south to north. Okay, now I'll explain later why I didn't say north to south. Okay, it's very important that you realize that it's south to north. So these lines here, so this one, this line, and this line. Okay, and there are also lines on this map that run horizontally. Okay, from west to east, not east to west. Okay, so west to east. All right, so these are horizontal lines. The key words you only need to worry about is vertical and horizontal. All right, so these lines actually overlap. And we'll talk about that in a second. Now, if you were a sailor, if you were driving a boat or a ship a long time ago, still even today, now you would call these lines longitude, okay, and latitude. All right, and that's how sailors, okay, for many hundreds of years used to navigate from one country to another across the oceans. All right, so you've probably heard of those words, longitude and latitude. We don't need to use those words at all, okay, but just to give you an idea of what we're talking about. Now, these longitude and latitude, or horizontal and vertical lines, when they come together, because they're perfectly straight, they form, oops, let me go back there. Okay, they form grids, okay, or squares. Now these squares, okay, or grids as we call them, are extremely important. All right, so let's move on to the next one. All right, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take the map away, okay, and when we take the map away, we're left with something like this. Okay, so this we call a coordinate grid. Okay, so this is the only information we actually need for now. All right, so when you take all the images of the map away, you're just left with the grids, okay, the squares, the horizontal and the vertical lines. All right, now these coordinate grids, while it's empty like this, okay, can be used for loads and loads of different things in math. Okay, so whereas maps, we're looking at physical location, okay, we can actually use these now for stuff like numerical graphs and charts and all sorts of things. Okay, but we're going to concentrate on location just so we can learn the basics. All right, so this, what you're looking at here, is a coordinate grid. Okay, all right, now we're going to take a look at the parts of these grids. Now, if you look at this grid here, you'll see that now we have numbers, okay, and we have some figures, okay, some points here in the center. All right, so we're going to look at what makes up the grid, okay, and then we're going to look at what is a coordinate. All right, so a coordinate grid has two number lines. Okay, now these number lines, the official mathematical term for them is axis. All right, so if we look at the bottom here, we see number 0, very important, that 0, okay, all the way up to 10. Now these numbers that go horizontally, okay, is our x-axis. Okay, now so these x-axis are numbering all these vertical lines. All right, so if you look at number 2, we can see that this number 2 is giving 2, a quantity of 2 to this line going all the way up. So this is our horizontal x-axis. Okay, and then over to the left hand side, so the x-axis is at the bottom, okay, but it also counts for any of these lines all the way going up. Okay, now so over to the left we have our vertical axis, or called our y-axis. All right, now same as a horizontal, it's numbered from 0 in the corner here. It shares the same 0, which you're going to talk about in a second. Okay, and all the way up, and it goes to 10 here. Now these axes can go all the way up to as many as you want. Okay, it depends on how big or how small your coordinate grid needs to be. Okay, so this one, it goes up to 10, so it makes a nice square. So again, horizontal numbers, okay, is our x-axis, and vertical numbers is our y-axis. The 0 is like a starting point, okay, when we need to count, and we can see that the 0 is shared by both axes. So think of this as what we call the origin. All right, now the location of any point on this grid, okay, can be represented with one number from the horizontal x-axis and a number from the y-axis. Okay, so if we look at this one here, okay, we can represent this monkey, okay, by using a number from each axis, and this will generate what we call a coordinate. All right, so very important rule. We always count the number on the horizontal x-axis first, and we always count from the origin. Okay, so 0. Okay, so always we start with the horizontal x-axis when we're counting, okay, when we're trying to find a location. All right, then we count the number on the vertical. So after we've got the horizontal number, okay, we then look at our vertical numbers, or our y-axis, okay, and again we count from 0, okay, until we find the location inside our grid. Okay, hopefully you're following so far. All right, what do we do after? Okay, I'm going to circle this monkey now, all right, and we're going to find the coordinate for this monkey. So the circled monkey is at grid number 8. Okay, why do we know that? So let's have a look. Let's count along the horizontal x-axis first. So 0 is our origin. Go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we can see the monkey is in line with the x-axis 8. All right. Okay, so it's horizontally 8. All right, that's the distance from the origin, 8 across. Okay, and after we've done the horizontal x-axis, okay, we're going to have a look at the y-axis, and we're going to count up now. All right, now we can do it from here and then go across, or do it from here and then go across. It's the same. Okay, so let's count up. 0 would be this bottom line here. Okay, 1, 2, and we can see it's on number 3. Okay, so horizontally 8, vertically 3. Therefore, our coordinate is 8.3. Well, it's not actually a point. For a coordinate, what we do is we separate our x and y with a comma. Okay, and then each coordinate goes in between brackets, just like that. So you'll get to know this, all right? It might take some practice, but you know that on the left-hand side, the 8 is our x-axis, okay, the comma, and the 3 is our y-axis. Now, if you were to give that coordinate to somebody now and say, the monkey is at 8, 3, all right? So they'll go along 8 and 3, and they can find it there, all right? So Let's have a very quick practice. Look at this other monkey. All right, what would the coordinate for this other monkey be? I'm going to give you a few seconds just to see if you can figure it out for yourselves. Okay, you think you've got it? So remember, x-axis first, horizontally. 1, 2, 3. So we can see that's in line with 3. Okay, so the x-axis is 3. All right, and now we're going to count the y-axis. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the coordinate for this monkey would be 3, 5. All right. Okay, let's move on. And we're going to see this in practice now. So let's create a little story. Okay, we've got a boy here and he's lost. All right, he's been walking around town all day and he got a bit lost and he needs to get home. All right, so in order to get home, the first thing he needs to know is his own coordinates, so where he is. We call that point A. All right, so point A is where the boy starts from. Okay, and he also needs the coordinate to point B, which would be his final destination or his house. Okay, and then once he has that information, he can then put that into his GPS and hopefully find his way home. But if we look, all right, when we've not got a grid or anything, okay, that's very, very hard to measure. Okay, we can't measure this distance. We don't know how big or small it is. We don't know exactly where the boy is. We just know that he's here and he needs to get home. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves a coordinate grid. All right, so we've got a nice big grid here. Okay, and we can see our x-axis and our y-axis. All right, now let's see where the boy is and where his house is in correlation to the grid. Okay, so now it's making a bit more sense. All right, we've got the boy down here and he needs to get home. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, remember, we're going to find point A. All right, so let's have a look. What is the coordinates of the boy? Okay, I'm going to give you a second. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is first of all counting along our x-axis. Okay, so we can see that the boy from 0, the distance from 0 to the boy along our x-axis is 13. Okay, he's perfectly in line with 13. All right, and then we need to count our y-axis. Okay, so we can see that he is 2, okay, on our y-axis. So the coordinate of the boy is 13, 2. Just like that. Remember that comma in between the x and the y coordinates. Okay, so we found point A. Now let's find point B. Okay, give you a second. Okay, so if you're really smart, you would already know that the house from the x-axis distance is 3. Okay, it's only 3 across. Even though it's way up here, okay, it's only 3 across on our x-axis. Okay, so it's 3. But if we look at our y-axis, it's very, very far away. Okay, in fact, it's 9. So the coordinate for the house is 3, 9. Okay, now the reason why the boy is not at 213, okay, if we got it the wrong way around, because 213 would be way off here, up here, all right, yeah? And if we put this the other way around, 9-3, the house would be at 9-3 over here, okay, be very close to the boy. So it's very important that we put them in the right order, okay? Now, let's say the boy doesn't go straight home because his house is a long way away. So he's going to stop off at a store for some water. All right. So I want you to use your skill and your knowledge to give me the coordinates, okay, of that store where he's going to buy the water. Okay, 5 seconds. All right. So the shop or the store where he bought the water is, of course, at 3, 2. Okay. So we've got all those coordinates. Now the boy can put that in his GPS and away he goes. All right. But there's one other problem. Okay. The boy doesn't know how far he needs to go to get home. All right, so we can actually use coordinate grids to find the distance. All right, so all of these grids, okay, individualized, create units. All right, and we can use these units to find how far the boy needs to walk to get home. Okay, now let's say one grid, or one unit, sorry, is 1 kilometer. Okay, so he's really far away from home, you can see just by looking. All right, so imagine walking one of these, okay, just across like that, is walking 1 kilometer. All right, pretty far. Okay, so we can actually use the grids, okay, to find out how far he needs to walk. Now, the first distance I want you to find, okay, is how far he needs to walk before he gets to the store. All right, so let's do it together. So he's at 13. Now the numbers don't really matter. Okay, you can use them if you want. Okay, you can do addition, subtraction. Okay, but we can count them manually. All right, so the boy's here at 13 and the water's here at 3. So let's count how many grid units he covers. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, you guessed it. All right, so from the boy to the shop, okay, so from point A to point B, okay, which would be the shop, all right, is 10 kilometers. All right, so he's pretty tired, so he definitely needs that water, doesn't he? All right, so now we've done that, okay, we can make it really easy now. So how far is it from the store or the shop back to his home? All right, I'll give you a few seconds, figure that out. Okay, so if you guessed, or if you found out that it was 7 kilometers, you were correct. All right, and then now we have these 3 points all together, and we have 2 distances. We now know that overall, from the boy to get from point A back to his home, he covered a total distance of 17 kilometers. So it would have took him a long time. All right, if you remember in science, okay, if you could work out how fast he was walking, okay, and how far he walked, how long it took him. All right, but that's for another lesson. Okay, so I'm sure you have lots of questions, okay, but for now, all right, here's just some key points. So remember that coordinates are just locations on a grid. All right, so I want you to think of chess. Okay, so if you've played chess before, you know that the chessboard is basically a grid, yeah, and each grid has letters and numbers. All right, so you can move your knight to A5, for example. It's exactly the same. All right, now remember, we always count the horizontal numbers first. Okay, so numbers going along, right, then we count the vertical numbers, the numbers going up. Think of it this way: if you have to go along the corridor, okay, then you go up the stairs. All right, so you go into your house, you walk along the corridor first, and then you go up the stairs. All right, so along the corridor, up the stairs. Remember that. Okay, always count from the origin. All right, never count from any other point. Okay, when you're finding coordinates, you always have to start from 0. Okay, and finally, make sure you write your coordinates in the right order with a comma. Okay, so in brackets. Okay, x-axis, comma, y-axis. All right, so this would be a horizontal number and your vertical number. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to be online later, so I can answer any questions that you have. There's a grid in a second that I want you to practice. Okay, there's a few coordinates that you need to find on there. I'm also going to add 2 links to 2 videos that I want you to watch today as part of today's lesson. Okay, these links are here, but I will add them to your Google Classroom. Okay, watch all these videos as many times as you need, okay, until you fully understand. If you don't understand, don't worry. Okay, at the bottom here, as I say, any questions, all right, we can answer them in the video chat session, or you can just send me a message. All right, I'm going to give you your first assignment tomorrow morning. Okay, so be ready for that. Okay, so thank you very much for listening, and I'll leave you for a few seconds with the practice grid. Thank you, and speak to you later.